In this demo, I'm going to show how to add reason and genType to an existing TypeScript codebase. I'm going to do this in 3 steps, where step 0 is just the starting point. In step 1, we're going to write a function in reason and call it from JavaScript. In step 2, we shall use genType in order to keep type safety across languages. And finally, in step 3, we're going to use a reason React component in a React TypeScript component. It's worth noting that steps 1 and 2 are not really React specific and can be applied to other frameworks or libraries such as Vue.js or even vanilla JavaScript or TypeScript codebases. The starting point is an almost empty React app with one component that is called TSComponent. It takes 2 props, a header text and a number, and calls the stringify number function to convert the number to a string representation. And of course the standard front-end workflow with hot reload, changing the code, saving and seeing the changes live works as usual. So let's see what it takes to be able to write this function in Reason instead of TypeScript. Luckily, the Reason React docs have a dedicated section about adding Reason to an existing project. All we have to do is just follow the instructions. We need to first npm install BS platform and Reason React. So let's do that. And while it's installing, we can create a file called bsconfig.json and paste in this snippet. And the last thing to pull in is this buckle script watcher script. That's really all there is to it. So let's just go ahead and switch back to our app. We're going to need 2 watchers, the TypeScript watcher as before, and the buckle script watcher in another terminal window. And we're all set. Now we can just grab this function and go ahead and convert it to Reason. Let's call this string functions. Const becomes let, number becomes int, and the switch syntax becomes a bit more concise. We don't need returns either. And let's go ahead and pull this into our TypeScript code. Note that our workflow remains largely unaffected. We can change our reason file and our changes get picked up and the UI gets updated. This is a good point to pause and analyze what's actually happening here. First of all, the buckle script watcher has generated a file called stringfunctions.bs.js. It looks similar to the code we've written previously in TypeScript. Changes to Reason code get immediately picked up and the JavaScript file gets updated. This in turn gets picked up by the TypeScript watcher and we can see the changes on the page. Now note that we're not using genType yet. Everything we've done so far is pure buckle script. The problem with this, however, is that it is possible to pass a string instead of a number, and we're not getting any compile time error. The type information gets lost between Reason and TypeScript. This brings us to step 2, where we can fix it with the help of genType. The good news is that pulling in genType and getting this to work is extremely simple and barely takes a minute. Let's go straight to the genType docs, and all we have to do is to npm install genType and add a small section to bsconfig.json. That's it. Let's get rid of this. and set the language to TypeScript. Now we can go ahead and rerun both our watchers, the buckle-script watcher and the TypeScript watcher. At first nothing happens. In order to get genType to kick in, we need to go ahead and annotate the function. As soon as we do that, a third file called stringfunctions.gen.tsx shows up. It re-exports stringify number from stringfunctions.bsjs, but also adds type information. In our TypeScript component, we can remove the old import, and now we get two choices instead. This time we choose the .gen file, and we can no longer make silly mistakes, such as passing a string instead of a number. Now TypeScript has type information that comes from Reason. The last part of this demo is React specific. We're going to use a Reason React component from TypeScript. We'll start by renaming the TS component file to reasoncomponent.re, cleaning this up, converting the syntax. The function is going to be called make, since that's the Reason React convention. Const becomes let. We don't need return, we don't need export. Stringify number comes from string functions. And of course we need to annotate the function with react.component. Now we can pull this into our main component. Unfortunately, the function is called make, so we'll have to rename it when importing. And now everything works, but we haven't used genType yet, which means that we're not immune to silly mistakes we can make with JavaScript, such as forgetting a prop. And we're not getting any compile time errors. The solution is really simple. We just add genType again. We can even go ahead and rename our component to Reason component, so the correct name is generated and we don't have to do this when importing. So we can remove the old import and pull in the one from the .gen file. And now TypeScript knows the types of props defined in Reason. So we can no longer pass a string to a number. And we can no longer just forget a prop. As before, we don't have to alter our ways of working, since changes in both Reason files and TypeScript files get picked up and the page gets refreshed automatically. The last thing we can do before wrapping it up is inspect the generated TypeScript component. As we can see, the generated prop types are rather similar to what we've written by hand previously. This is all I wanted to show in today's short demo. If you have any questions about genType or are curious about Reason, feel free to contact me on GitHub or Twitter or LinkedIn.